The planet below pulsed with bioluminescent energy, a massive array of orbital structures encircling it, like a halo of artificial stars. Commander Elena Reyes stood at the command bridge of the UES Valiant, her jaw tight as she watched the alien space station grow larger on the main display. Zelthar Prime, the central hub of the enigmatic species that humanity had only discovered 18 months ago. Approaching designated contact coordinates, Commander, Lieutenant Kara Novak announced from the navigation console. ETA 3 minutes to orbital insertion. Reyes nodded, her dark eyes never leaving the screen. The year 2547 had been marked as humanity's greatest expansion era. 300 star systems colonized, terraformed, or established as outposts. Mankind had believed itself alone in this section of the galaxy until the Zelthar vessels appeared at the edges of the Proxima Centauri system. "Status report on the escort fleet?" Reyes asked, her voice steady despite the tension coiling in her stomach. "All 6 vessels maintaining formation. Weapon systems on standby but powered down as agreed," replied Commander Santiago. Her XO. "Earth Strategic Council is requesting hourly updates once diplomatic contact begins." Reyes smoothed the front of her uniform. The diplomatic mission was straightforward. Establish peaceful relations with the Zelthar Alliance, a collective of biomechanical entities that had developed faster than light travel nearly a century before humans. Initial scans suggested their civilization spanned dozens of systems, their technology seemingly integrated with biological components. This meeting at their central hub was the culmination of months of preparation. "Dr. Lin, any updates on the biological readings?" Reyes called to the science station. Dr. Marcus Lin, the Valiant's chief xenobiologist, studied the readouts with intense concentration. His slender fingers manipulated the holographic display as he analyzed the data streaming in from the station. "Fascinating," he murmured. "The entire structure appears to be partially organic. I'm detecting cellular activity throughout the superstructure, almost as if—" The communication system crackled to life, interrupting him. The main screen flickered, then displayed the image of a Zelthar representative. The being's form was unsettlingly fluid, a vaguely humanoid shape composed of what appeared to be a metallic exoskeleton housing translucent tissue that pulsed with internal light. Multiple appendages extended from its torso, and where a human would have a face, there was only a cluster of sensory organs surrounding a vocal apparatus. "Unidentified vessels!" The creature's mechanically translated voice resonated through the bridge. "You have entered restricted space. Identify your purpose or face immediate neutralization." Reyes stepped forward, keeping her expression neutral despite her surprise. This wasn't the greeting they had expected after months of communication. "This is Commander Elena Reyes of the United Earthship Valiant. We are here by invitation from your diplomatic council for first formal contact between our peoples. We come in peace." The creature remained motionless for several seconds, the internal lights of its body pulsing more rapidly. "False," it finally responded. "Your vessels are armed. Your approach vector indicates military formation. You will be recognized as what you are, invaders to Zelthar's sovereign territory." Reyes glanced at Santiago, who shook his head in confusion. "We've followed all protocols established in our previous communications," she insisted. "Our weapon systems are powered down, and we've transmitted all required identification codes." The creature's body shifted, appendages retracting slightly. "I am Hive Commander Vakor of the Zelthar Alliance. Your species has been assessed and found wanting. You have 24 Earth hours to surrender unconditionally to Zelthar authority or face annihilation." The screen went dark. Silence fell over the bridge, broken only by the soft beeping of the ship's systems. Reyes turned to face her senior officers, their expressions mirroring her own shock. "What the hell just happened?" Santiago whispered. "Sir," Lieutenant Novak called out, her voice tense. "I'm detecting energy buildups across the station. Their weapon systems are powering up, Reyes straightened her shoulders. Yellow alert. Shields up. But weapons remain offline. I need a secure channel to Earth Strategic Council immediately. She turned to Dr. Lin. Doctor, I need everything you can tell me about their biology and technology. Now. As the bridge erupted into controlled chaos, Reyes kept her eyes on the alien station. Something had gone terribly wrong, and she had just 24 hours to figure out what, before her ship, her crew, and potentially humanity itself faced destruction at the hands of an enemy they barely understood. The emergency conference with the Earth Strategic Council was going exactly as Reyes had feared. Commander, the diplomatic approach has clearly failed. Admiral Zhao's holographic image stated flatly. We cannot risk an interstellar war with a technologically superior species. The Council is considering immediate capitulation to buy time for defensive preparations. With all due respect, Admiral, Reyes replied, leaning forward in her chair. Surrendering the Valiant and our escort fleet would give the Zelthar immediate access to our FTL technology, weapon systems, and potentially Earth's coordinates. We'd be handing them the keys to our extinction. The 6 members of the Council exchanged glances. General Okonkwo, the highest-ranking military officer, spoke next. What alternatives do you propose, Commander? Your fleet is outnumbered and outgunned. Reyes took a deep breath. We've detected unusual communication patterns between the Zelthar station and their patrol vessels. Lieutenant Novak believes there may be exploitable vulnerabilities in their network. Meanwhile, Dr. Lin has identified biological components in their technology that could potentially be disrupted. I'm requesting time to explore these options. You're suggesting we risk the lives of everyone in your fleet on the slim chance of finding a weakness in 24 hours? Asked Council Member Singh, her expression skeptical. I'm suggesting that surrendering guarantees our defeat, while fighting gives us a chance, however small, Reyes countered. The Valiant was built for this, to represent humanity in our darkest hours. After a tense debate, the Council reluctantly granted Reyes 12 hours to find a viable strategy before they would revisit the surrender option. As the communication ended, Reyes leaned back in her chair, the weight of billions of human lives pressing down on her shoulders. In the science lab, Dr. Marcus Lin carefully manipulated the robotic arms of a remote probe through a holographic interface. The tiny scout ship had been deployed under stealth conditions to collect samples from the debris field surrounding Zelthar Prime. Careful, he muttered to himself, guiding the collection apparatus toward what appeared to be a fragment of biological material floating among the metallic debris. Just a little closer. The probe's sensors registered success, and Lin allowed himself a small smile. Sample acquired. Initiating return sequence. As the probe began its journey back to the Valiant, Lin turned to his team of scientists. Prepare the containment lab. Full biohazard protocols. Whatever this stuff is, it's partially alive and integrated with their technology. I want to know how it works, how it thinks, and most importantly, how it can be stopped. Meanwhile, in the Cyber Warfare Center, Lieutenant Kara Novak hunched over her console, her fingers flying across the holographic keyboard as she analyzed the intercepted communications from the Zelthar fleet. There's something here, she murmured to her team. Their primary communications use quantum entanglement, which we can't intercept. But their automated systems, the ones controlling life support, navigation, and secondary functions, they're using a different protocol. She highlighted a pattern in the data stream. See this? It's reminiscent of old Earth binary, but with a biological component, almost like a neural network with technological enhancements. A junior officer leaned in. Can we exploit it? Novak's eyes narrowed as she focused on the screen. Maybe. If we can identify the right access points, we might be able to introduce a directional virus, something that could temporarily disrupt their communications without destroying their life support. She straightened up, determination hardening her features. Get me everything we have on neural network vulnerabilities and biological computing interfaces. We've got less than 10 hours to crack an alien communication system. Back on the bridge, Reyes paced restlessly. Reports were coming in from across the ship. Engineering was maximizing shield capacity. Tactical was running combat simulations, and medical was preparing for casualties. But it was the internal conflict that weighed heaviest on her. Every instinct told her to retreat, to preserve the lives of her crew. They hadn't signed up for a suicide mission. Yet retreat meant abandoning the outer colonies to whatever fate the Zelthar had planned. Intelligence suggested the aliens had already deployed scouts to several human outposts. This wasn't just about the Valiant anymore. It was about the survival of their species. "Commander," Santiago approached, offering a steaming cup of coffee. "You should rest. We'll need you sharp when the deadline approaches." Reyes accepted the cup gratefully. "How's morale?" Santiago hesitated. "Mixed. Some believe surrender is inevitable. Others are ready to fight to the last. Everyone's scared, but they trust you." "Trust," Reyes repeated quietly. "I'm not sure I've earned that today." "Permission to speak freely?" Reyes nodded. "They don't need you to be right," Santiago said. "They need you to be decisive. Whatever comes next, make the call and own it. That's all anyone can ask." The words settled on her like armor, providing not comfort, but purpose. Reyes turned back to the main display, where the alien station continued its ominous orbit. "Have Lynn and Novak report to my ready room in 1 hour," she ordered. "It's time we discussed our options, all of them." 8 hours into their deadline, disaster struck. 3 Zelthar warships suddenly broke formation and accelerated toward the human escort fleet. "They're targeting the Odysseus," shouted the tactical officer. "Energy weapons charging." "Red alert," Reyes commanded, rushing to the command chair. "Shields at maximum. Defensive formation Delta. Weapons online but hold fire unless fired upon." The bridge erupted into controlled chaos as crew members rushed to battle stations. On the main screen, the elegant form of the UES Odysseus, one of their escort vessels, maneuvered desperately to avoid the incoming attack. "Odysseus is hailing us," reported the communications officer. "On screen," Reyes ordered. Captain Rodriguez's face appeared, his bridge filled with smoke and flashing emergency lights. "Valiant, we're taking heavy fire. Their weapons are penetrating our shields like they're not even there." "Hang on, Odysseus. We're moving to support." Reyes turned to tactical. "Target the lead Zelthar vessel. Warning shots only. Show them we can defend ourselves." The Valiant's railguns fired, hypersonic projectiles streaking across space toward the alien ships. The shots deliberately missed their targets, but demonstrated the human vessel's range and accuracy. The alien vessels paused momentarily, then changed course, directly toward the Valiant. "They're not backing down," Santiago warned. Before Reyes could respond, the screen showed the Odysseus erupting in a catastrophic explosion, its hull breached in multiple sections by the Zelthar energy weapons. "My God," someone whispered on the bridge. Reyes's knuckles whitened as she gripped the armrests of her chair. "Tactical, full weapons free. Target their propulsion systems only. Helm, evasive pattern Omega. Get us into the asteroid belt where we'll have cover." As the Valiant and the remaining escort vessels engaged the enemy, Reyes knew their deadline had just become meaningless. The Zelthar had made their intentions clear. Diplomacy was no longer an option. The battle in the asteroid belt lasted 3 brutal hours. The human fleet lost 2 more vessels, but managed to disable 1 Zelthar ship before retreating deeper into the rocky field. The massive chunks of space rock provided some cover from the alien sensors, giving the battered human ships precious time to regroup. In the aftermath, Reyes received an unexpected communication, a narrowband transmission from within the Zelthar fleet, carefully encrypted to avoid detection. In her private quarters, Reyes activated the secure channel. The figure that appeared was clearly Zelthar, but different from Vakor, smaller, with fewer appendages and a more muted bioluminescence. "Commander Reyes," the translated voice began. "I am Sub-Commander Trell Nash of the 3rd Division. What I am doing would be considered treason by my collective." Reyes leaned forward. "Why risk contacting me?" "Because Hive Commander Vakor's actions are not universally supported within our alliance. Some of us believe coexistence is possible." "Your forces just destroyed 3 of our ships without provocation," Reyes said coldly. "And I regret those losses," Trell Nash replied. "But you must understand what you're facing. The collective has analyzed your species and classified humans as an existential threat, not for what you are now, but for what our predictive models show you will become." "Explain." The alien's body pulsed with what might have been agitation. "Your species evolves rapidly, both biologically and technologically. Our models predict that within 3 centuries, humans would surpass and potentially subsume the Zelthar. Vakor has authorized a preemptive solution." "What kind of solution?" Reyes asked, though she already suspected the answer. "A biological agent has been developed specifically targeting human DNA. It would be undetectable until activated, by which time it would be too late to develop a countermeasure." Reyes felt ice in her veins. "Genocide!" "Survival," Trell Nash corrected. "Just as you would now seek to ensure yours. I am providing this information because some of us believe there must be another way, a negotiated boundary that would satisfy both our species' need for security." "Why should I believe you?" "I've included technical specifications of our primary defense grid in this transmission. It should prove my sincerity and give your species a fighting chance." After the transmission ended, Reyes immediately summoned her senior officers. As they reviewed the information provided by the Zelthar defector, a grim realization settled over the room. "This confirms what my team found in the biological samples," Dr. Lin said, his voice grave. "The structure of their technology isn't just biomechanical. It's designed to interface with and manipulate other biological systems. If they've engineered a pathogen specifically for humans." "Can we develop a countermeasure?" Reyes asked. Lin hesitated. "Possibly, but it would take time we don't have, unless—" "Unless what, Doctor?" "Unless we employ the same strategy against them," Lin said quietly. "Their biology is unique, partly organic, partly synthetic. If we could develop a virus that targets their specific biological interface—" The implication hung heavy in the air. "You're talking about creating a biological weapon," Santiago stated flatly. "I'm talking about survival," Lin countered. "They've already decided to wipe us out. This isn't about ethics anymore. It's about ensuring humanity has a future." Reyes turned to Novak. "Lieutenant, what about the communication vulnerability you were investigating?" Novak straightened. "We've made progress. Based on the new information, I believe we could infiltrate their network through the secondary communication nodes. We wouldn't have full control, but we could potentially introduce a disruptive element, something that would redirect their defensive systems temporarily." "Long enough for a strike team to penetrate their defenses?" Reyes asked. "Possibly," Novak replied. "But it would be a one-way trip for anyone who goes." Reyes stood, looking at each of her officers in turn. "I want options on my desk in 2 hours. All options, including the development of a biological countermeasure. We're fighting for the survival of our species now. Everything is on the table." As the officers filed out, Dr. Lin lingered. "Commander, even if we could develop such a weapon, are you prepared to use it? We'd be talking about the potential extinction of an entire species." Reyes met his gaze steadily. 24 hours ago, I would have said no without hesitation. Now, I honestly don't know. What I do know is that I need every possible tool at my disposal before this is over." Lin nodded gravely and left, leaving Reyes alone with the weight of decisions no human should ever have to make. Lieutenant Novak led a small team through the maintenance shaft of the alien station. Their specialized stealth suits, providing limited protection from Zelthar sensors. The infiltration had been a desperate gamble, using a captured Zelthar shuttle modified with the intelligence provided by Trell Nash. They had approached the massive space station under the guise of a routine patrol. "Junction point ahead," whispered Ensign Torres, consulting the holographic map projected from his wrist device. "Primary data node should be 20 meters beyond that." Novak nodded, signaling the team to halt as a patrol of Zelthar drones passed by the adjacent corridor. Unlike their masters, these constructs were fully mechanical, though still controlled through the same biological network that powered the station. When the patrol passed, Novak led the team forward. They had one mission: to plant a specialized virus into the Zelthar network that would temporarily redirect their defensive systems, creating a window of vulnerability for the Valiant's planned assault. Meanwhile, aboard the Valiant, Dr. Marcus Lin worked feverishly in the containment lab. The biological samples collected from the Zelthar debris had yielded unexpected results. The alien biology used silicon-based structures instead of carbon, with neural pathways that merged seamlessly with their technological components. "It's like they evolved specifically to integrate with machines," he explained to Reyes, who had come to check on his progress. "Their entire physiology is built around information processing, living computers, essentially." "And the virus?" Reyes asked, her expression grim. Lin gestured to a sealed container, where a pale, luminescent substance churned slowly. "It's ready. Once introduced into their network, it will replicate rapidly, targeting the neural pathways that connect their biological components to their technology. Systems will fail within hours." "And the Zelthar themselves?" Lin hesitated. "Complete neural collapse. They wouldn't survive." Reyes stared at the container, the ethical implications crushing down on her. "How specific is this targeting? Could it affect other species? Humans?" "It's designed specifically for their silicon-based neural structure. It shouldn't affect carbon-based life forms like humans or any Earth-derived biology." Lin paused. "But Commander, there's something else you should know." He pulled up a holographic display showing the complex molecular structure of the virus. "This isn't just a weapon. It's potentially an extinction-level event for their entire species. Once released, there's no controlling it. It will spread through their network, from ship to ship, station to station. We wouldn't just be eliminating the threat to Earth. We'd be wiping out their civilization entirely." Reyes turned away, the weight of the decision crushing down on her. "Keep it contained until I give the order. This is a last resort only." As she left the lab, her comm unit beeped. "Commander," Santiago's voice came through. "We've lost contact with Novak's team on Zelthar Prime." Novak and her team had reached the data node, a pulsating organic structure that interfaced with the station's mechanical systems. As Torres began the delicate process of connecting their device to inject the virus, alarms suddenly blared throughout the corridor. "We've been detected!" shouted Specialist Rodriguez, raising her weapon as the sound of approaching drones echoed through the passageway. "Keep working," Novak ordered Torres, drawing her own sidearm. "We need 5 more minutes to complete the upload." The first wave of drones rounded the corner, spherical machines bristling with weapons, guided by the station's biological intelligence. Novak and Rodriguez opened fire, their specialized EMP rounds temporarily disabling the first few drones. "More incoming!" Rodriguez warned, as a second, larger wave approached. Novak grabbed a pulse grenade from her belt. "Fall back to position B. Torres, status?" 70% uploaded, Torres reported, his fingers flying over the interface. "I need 2 more minutes." "You've got one," Novak replied, tossing the grenade toward the advancing drones before taking cover. The explosion temporarily cleared the corridor, but the station's security systems were adapting quickly. Overhead vents began releasing a pale mist, some kind of biological countermeasure. Masks on, Novak ordered, pulling her breathing apparatus into place. Torres! Done, he shouted, disconnecting the device. Virus is uploading to their primary systems. Retreat to extraction point, Novak commanded, laying down covering fire as her team began falling back through the maintenance corridors. They had nearly reached their modified shuttle when a massive security door slammed shut, cutting off Torres and Rodriguez from Novak and the remaining team member. Find another way around, Novak shouted through the comm. We'll hold the shuttle. Negative, came Torres's strained reply. We're surrounded. Get that data back to the Valiant. Tell them it worked. The comm went silent as Novak heard weapons fire from the other side of the door. Grief and rage surged through her, but training took over. Move, she ordered the remaining crew member, racing toward the docking bay. As their shuttle detached from the station, pursuing Zelthar vessels, already closing in, Novak clutched the data crystal containing confirmation of the virus's successful deployment. The mission had succeeded, but at a terrible cost, one that was becoming all too familiar in this desperate struggle for survival. On the Valiant's bridge, Reyes received the bittersweet news of Novak's partial return. The virus is active, Novak reported, her face streaked with sweat and grime on the view screen. Torres confirmed successful integration before they were captured. We have a 6-hour window before their systems adapt and purge it. Understood, Reyes replied. Return to the Valiant immediately. As the communication ended, Reyes turned to Santiago. Assemble the War Council. It's time to make our move. In the tactical room, the senior officers gathered around the holographic display, showing Zelthar Prime and the surrounding space. Colonel Samuel Price, commander of the 2nd Fleet escort vessel, had joined via secure link. The virus will create blind spots in their defense grid here, and here, Reyes explained, highlighting sections of the station. That gives us potential insertion points for a targeted strike. A strike with what objective? Price asked. We've lost 3 ships already. Even with their defenses compromised, a frontal assault would be suicide. Not necessarily, Reyes replied. Dr. Lin has developed a biological countermeasure targeting their neural network. If deployed at this central processing node, it would rapidly spread through their entire system. Lin shifted uncomfortably. Commander, I feel I must once again emphasize the ethical implications. This virus wouldn't just disable their technology. It would destroy the Zelthar themselves. All of them. So would their virus destroy all of us? Price countered. This isn't about ethics anymore. It's about survival. There is another option, Reyes said quietly. A direct plasma strike at their central reactor. It would destroy the station and their leadership, potentially giving us time to evacuate the outer colonies before they can deploy their biological weapon. A suicide mission, Santiago stated. Yes, Reyes acknowledged. The Valiant would need to get close enough to deliver the strike. We wouldn't be able to escape the blast radius. Silence fell over the room as the implications sank in. The choice seems clear to me, Price said finally. Use the biological weapon. Save our fleet. Save humanity. By becoming the very monsters we're fighting? Lin asked. Sometimes, survival requires difficult choices. Novak interjected, her voice hard from the losses she'd just experienced. They've already made their choice. Now we make ours. Reyes studied the faces of her officers, each bearing the strain of the past 24 hours, each looking to her for the decision that would determine not just their fates, but potentially the fate of their entire species. We'll prepare both options, she decided. The biological weapon and the plasma strike. Final decision will be made based on conditions at the time of engagement. She straightened. This isn't just about winning a battle anymore. It's about what kind of victory we can live with. As the meeting dispersed, Reyes remained alone in the tactical room, staring at the holographic representation of the alien station. The ethical calculus was impossible, Billions of human lives weighed against the existence of an entire alien species. Whatever choice she made, history would judge her either a savior or a monster. Perhaps both. Her comm unit beeped with an incoming transmission. Earth Strategic Council requesting an update. Reyes took a deep breath and accepted the call, prepared to inform them that diplomacy was no longer an option. Humanity was at war, and she was about to lead the first major offensive. The battle began 3 hours later. The remaining human fleet, now reduced to 4 vessels, including the Valiant, approached Zelthar Prime from 3 different vectors, using the asteroid field for cover until the last possible moment. "Virus efficiency at 68%, reported the tactical officer. "Their defense grid is showing the predicted blind spots." "All ships, commence attack pattern Omega," Reyes ordered. "Focus fire on the designated weak points." The human vessels emerged from the asteroid field like predators from tall grass, weapon systems firing in perfect coordination. The Zelthar response was delayed by precious seconds as their compromised network struggled to adapt. On the main screen, Reyes watched as railgun projectiles and energy beams struck the massive space station, targeting specific defense nodes identified in Trell Nash's intelligence. Explosions blossomed across the station's surface as the first layer of defenses crumbled. "They're responding," Santiago warned. "Multiple enemy vessels breaking orbit. Energy signatures indicate heavy weapons powering up." "As expected," Reyes replied calmly. "Colonel Price, commence Phase 2. The UES Intrepid, under Price's command, broke formation and accelerated toward a different section of the station, drawing fire from the defending Zelthar vessels. Meanwhile, the Valiant and the 2 remaining escorts continued their approach toward the station's biological core. "Commander," Lin's voice came over the comm from the science lab. "The delivery system for the biological agent is ready, awaiting your command." Reyes acknowledged, but didn't give the order. Not yet. There was still another option, the suicide run to destroy the station's reactor. It would mean the loss of the Valiant and all hands, but it would spare them from committing what amounted to genocide. The ship shuddered as enemy fire found its mark. "Shields at 60%, reported the tactical officer. "Hull breach on Deck 4, contained." "Return fire, all weapons," Reyes ordered. "Helm, continue on approach vector." The battle intensified as more Zelthar vessels joined the fray. The UES Horizon, one of their escort ships, took a direct hit to its engine core and began listing badly. "Horizon is reporting critical damage." Communications reported, "Captain Williams is ordering abandoned ship." "Direct the Sentinel to cover their escape pods," Reyes commanded. "We continue on mission." As they closed on the station, the decision point approached. Reyes would need to choose: deploy the biological weapon or commit the Valiant to the suicide run. "Commander," Novak called from her station, "I'm detecting unusual communication patterns from the station. They're transmitting something to all their vessels simultaneously." Analysis. Novak's eyes widened. It appears to be deployment instructions. They're preparing to release their biological agent against Earth." The moment of decision had arrived. Reyes stood, her face set in grim determination. "Dr. Lin, prepare to deploy the biological countermeasure. Tactical. Maintain our approach to the central processing node." "Aye, Commander," came the responses. As the Valiant fought its way closer to the target, Reyes retreated briefly to her ready room. She recorded a quick message explaining her decision and the circumstances that led to it, to be transmitted to Earth when the mission succeeded. Returning to the bridge, she found chaos. A direct hit had damaged their propulsion system, and enemy vessels were closing in from multiple vectors. "Status report," she demanded. "We've lost primary engines," Santiago replied, blood trickling from a cut on his forehead. "Secondary systems are online but at reduced capacity. We can still reach the target, but our maneuverability is compromised." "And the biological payload?" "Ready for deployment, but we need to get closer. within 500 meters of the processing node. Reyes studied the tactical display. Their position was precarious, but not hopeless. The virus Novak's team had planted was still creating disruptions in the Zelthar defense network, giving them a narrow path forward. "New course," she ordered. "Take us directly through Defense Sector 7. Full power to forward shields." The helmsman looked back in surprise. "That's the heaviest concentration of enemy fire, Commander." "It's also where they'll least expect us," Reyes replied. "Execute." The Valiant changed course, driving straight toward the heart of the Zelthar defenses. Enemy fire intensified, battering the human ship's shields. Warning klaxons blared as systems began to fail across the vessel. "Shields at 30% and falling," Tactical reported. "We can't take much more of this." "We don't need to," Reyes said grimly. "Just long enough to reach the deployment point." She opened a ship-wide channel. "All hands. This is the commander. Brace for impact and prepare for emergency procedures." The Valiant shuddered violently as another hit struck home. "Hull breach! Deck 6!" someone shouted. "Emergency force fields engaged." "Distance to target?" Reyes demanded. 800 meters. 700. Enemy fire continued to pound the ship, systems failing in cascading sequence as the Valiant drove relentlessly toward its goal. 600 meters! Reyes made her final decision. "Dr. Lin, deploy the biological agent." There was a momentary hesitation on the other end of the comm. "Commander, are you certain? Once released, there's no calling it back." Reyes closed her eyes briefly. "They've left us no choice. Doctor, deploy now." "Acknowledged. Deployment in 3, 2, 1. From the Valiant's forward section, a small projectile launched toward the pulsating organic center of Zelthar Prime. It struck the processing node and immediately released its payload, a genetically engineered virus specifically designed to attack the unique silicon-based neural pathways of the Zelthar. "Direct hit," Tactical confirmed. "Biological agent successfully deployed." "Now get us out of here," Reyes ordered. "Maximum speed on secondary engines. Return to the asteroid field." As the damaged Valiant limped away from the station, the first effects of the virus became visible. The bioluminescent glow that had suffused the station began to flicker and dim in spreading patterns, like a wave of darkness consuming the light. "It's working," Lin reported from the science lab, his voice hollow. "The virus is spreading through their network exactly as predicted. Neural collapse has begun in the affected sections." The pursuing Zelthar vessels suddenly broke off their attack, turning back toward the station as if responding to some desperate recall signal. "They're trying to contain it," Novak observed. "But it's too late. The virus is in their primary network now. It will spread to every connected system." Reyes watched the screen silently as the Valiant retreated to the relative safety of the asteroid field. The virus would continue its inexorable spread, moving from ship to ship, station to station, colony to colony, anywhere the Zelthar neural network extended. They had won the battle and, likely, the war, but the cost was incalculable. "Commander," communications called. "We're receiving a transmission from Zelthar Prime. It's on a private channel." "Put it through to my station," Reyes ordered. The image that appeared was distorted and fragmented. Hive Commander Vakor, the Zelthar leader, who had issued the original ultimatum. The alien's body was already showing signs of the neural collapse, its bioluminescence flickering erratically. "What have you done?" The translated voice came through in broken fragments. "The same thing you planned to do to us," Reyes replied evenly. "Ensure our survival. You've doomed an entire species." "You gave us no choice." The alien's form convulsed, internal lights dimming further. "We underestimated your capacity for destruction." "No," Reyes corrected quietly. "You underestimated our capacity for survival. You chose war with humanity. Good luck surviving." The transmission ended as the Zelthar commander's neural pathways finally collapsed completely. In the days that followed, the human fleet remained in the system, monitoring the spread of the virus and collecting data on its effects. Dr. Lin worked tirelessly to document the ecological impact, creating a comprehensive record that would serve as both scientific resource and historical warning. The virus has exceeded our initial projections, he reported to Reyes 1 week after the deployment. It's spread through 98% of their connected systems. We've detected automated vessels attempting to quarantine, but they're too few and too late. Have you found any survivors? Reyes asked. Lin shook his head. Only isolated individuals or small groups who weren't connected to the main network, mostly research outposts or survey teams. Not enough to rebuild their civilization. The gravity of what they had done, what she had ordered, weighed heavily on Reyes. She had saved humanity, but at the cost of another sentient species. History would debate whether the decision was justified, but she would have to live with it either way. Lieutenant Novak approached with a data pad. Casualty report, Commander, final numbers. Reyes took the pad, scanning the figures. 3 ships lost. 1,147 crew members dead or missing. Hundreds more injured. The Valiant itself had sustained damage that would take months to repair fully. A high price, but a fraction of what would have been lost had the Zelthar succeeded in deploying their own biological weapon against Earth. What about the captured crew members? Reyes asked, thinking of Torres and Rodriguez. No survivors found on the station, Novak replied quietly. They likely didn't survive the initial neural collapse when the virus hit. Reyes nodded, adding 2 more names to the list of those whose deaths she was responsible for. 2 weeks after the battle, a communication arrived from Earth Strategic Council. The Valiant was ordered to return home immediately. An inquiry would be convened to review the decision to deploy the biological weapon, a decision that had already sparked intense debate among Earth's colonies and allies. Some hailed Reyes as a hero who had saved humanity from extinction. Others condemned her as a war criminal who had committed genocide. The truth, as always, lay somewhere in between, a decision made in the crucible of war, when all options were terrible and time had run out. In her quarters, Reyes composed a final log entry before the Valiant began its journey home. We came to Zelthar Prime seeking peaceful contact, and found instead an enemy determined to eradicate us. In the choice between survival and extinction, I chose survival, not just for myself or my crew, but for our entire species. The cost was the extinction of another. I do not expect forgiveness for this decision. I do not seek it. What I did was necessary, but necessity does not erase moral culpability. I will face the consequences, whatever they may be. To those who will judge this action in the safety of hindsight, I ask only this: consider honestly what you would have done in my place, with billions of lives in your hands and only minutes to decide their fate. The Zelthar chose war with humanity. They did not survive. Let their fate serve as both warning and burden to those who follow, a reminder of the terrible price of conflict between worlds. As the Valiant broke orbit and set course for Earth, the once magnificent Zelthar Prime continued its silent orbit, its bioluminescent glow now permanently extinguished, a dark monument to a civilization that had underestimated humanity's resolve to survive, no matter the cost. In her hand, Reyes held a small data crystal containing her personal message to whatever Zelthar might have survived the plague. It was simple and direct. You chose war with humanity. Good luck surviving. She would never send it. There was no one left to receive it. But the words remained, a epitaph for one species and a warning for her own.